Tour de France Femmes stage 6. What an awesome stage. If you didn't watch it, you should go back and watch it because, man, this was a proper bike race. It looked like a national championship. And the reason why I say go back and watch it, if you're interested in cycling or interested in bike racing, you could really see all the different strategies unfold, all the difficult challenges that each team is faced, having to make decisions, what to do in different scenarios. And you could see kind of the discourse or disconnect between team managers and riders out on the road, not necessarily having the right information at the right moment to make the right call in that split second. This is reality. And if you are a bike racer, like in my case, where you were a bike racer, I guess I'm still doing a little bit of bike racing now again, but yeah, it's tough out on the road to kind of decide what to do because, you see a lot of these situations where you're like, okay, this person went up the road. Do I go? Do I not go? Do I chase them down? Do I cover it? And you saw a lot of this where tactics were on fleek today. I thought that every team did a great job overall kind of making the race. Although I think like in hindsight, whatever, there maybe wasn't enough of a job overall put pressure on Movistar and Reuser, right? If you watched these riders out there were many times where the yellow jersey was on the front, patrolling the situation, chasing things down, taking risks in the downhill to be ahead, and her teammates were either in the breakaway ahead or on the back of the group she was in. You almost never saw the Movistar riders next to her, right? So I think that was interesting, and I didn't really feel like her competitors, specifically Demi and Kaja, I felt like they didn't really take advantage of that. And instead, we even saw them put their teammates and themselves do work to bring things back. Now, hats off to Lacourt, who won the stage, and not only won the stage by out sprinting everyone, but she outraced everyone, making the break, going across to the break, not making the break, then going across to the break, and then attacking multiple times out of the break, saying, hey, this break's too messy. I don't want to play around with this. It might get caught. I'm going to go off the front. She went off the front a few times. One time I saw I was like, dude, that's enough matches right there. I don't know if she can do the sprint. And then she crushed everyone in the sprint. Now, it ended up being pretty close in the end because she went from so long, but she had the legs, she had the focus, and she got the stage one, got it done. It was an amazing job. I thought that hands down, she was definitely the stage's MVP, won the day, and definitely tactically and racing aggressively won the hearts of all the viewers, and I thought was great bike racing. Now, if you rewind it a little bit back, you could see kind of the war that was going on where many riders were both looking to move in advance on GC, put pressure on other GC teams, and then also riders were trying to get stage wins. You saw everything from EF, even FDJ was going for stage wins. We saw UAE going for GC and stage wins. Just like the race was super animated. It looked amazing from my point of view. Lots of counterattacks, lots of moves. Seri, the French champion, I thought she, honorable mention, like home road advantage, was like throwing crazy bombs down the descents. Back on what I said yesterday, where Vollering just ripped that downhill in the end. Today, the descending was on point. It was amazing how fast these riders are going. The lines they're taking look great. They're really pushing the boundaries of the road and their equipment and their tires. The sport, women's pro cycling, is really getting to a high level. It's pretty amazing seeing the speeds that they're going, the actions that they're taking, the performances they're doing. It's looking really high level. And when I say that, I'm not saying like a difference between women and men. I'm just saying like straight up, like what I know feels possible on the bike. I feel like they are pushing those limits, right? Male, female, whatever it is, it's looking like the limits are being pushed, and it's awesome to see it. Now, team tactics, here's an area I think we can improve quite a bit. And I think, just like I was saying earlier in the podcast, I think a lot of it just comes down to not necessarily being in these situations before and not really knowing what to do. And I think the more Tour de France's we do, the more big races like this where there's a lot of action happening, a lot of high level bike racers, I think that's, will help kind of make better tactical decisions. But there were some situations out there, specifically with Canyon SRAM, I thought, and then also FDJ, where, they could have either tagged the breakaway or they were tagged in the breakaway, and there was no need to help Movistar in this situation. But both teams ended up, when Longo Borghini got in the breakaway, both teams chased, right? And we saw even Vollering go on the front and do a pull of her own, pulled on a climb, pulled afterwards, and then, really tried to get the group to chase back. And I've said this in some of the other podcasts. Today was another good example. The difference in ability between, say, a Vollering and then, the riders outside of, let's say, the top 4, right, is incredible. Like, when she got on the front, the gap was, I think, almost 40 seconds or 30 some seconds to the breakaway with Longo and Lecourt. And when she got on the front, it came down to like 20, like just like that. In the time that it came down, these riders were like attacking each other. In fact, Lecourt was off the front, and they were like, I think Longo Borghini was chasing full gas, chasing, like aiming right at the back of Lecourt, and Vollering is on the front chasing this down, and she's gaining time. I think that's crazy, right? To be that much better than everyone else. And, not saying that like crazy, like unthinkable, but just shows that the level that these top women are at is much higher than the other riders in there. And I guess it's kind of like, Pogačar and Jonas and whatever, right? Like, they are quite a bit better. And if Pogačar decided to get on the front, which I guess he did, there's only a few riders left. And in this case, Vollering did the same thing. She had a teammate ahead in the break, and in my mind, it just seemed like a bad tactical decision because, it's like, well, what's the point of having your teammate up there? And I understand she's going for the stage win, and then like hearing Demi in an interview afterwards, she's like, well, I wanted to leave the breakaway out there so she had the stage win, but I didn't want Longo to have as much time. And first of all, why do you let Longo go in the breakaway? First, that's my first question. Would it be easier if Demi just covered Longo Borghini when she went? And then if you're this strong where you can just take 20 seconds out of a breakaway of 10 riders on a flat road for no reason at all, then you definitely can do a little acceleration with her when she attacks to go with it. And if you're worried about being counterattacked at that moment by Russo or something like that, well, that's the point of having the teammate where, the teammate Suri or whatever can then help you get her back. And it's a flat road to the finish. So even if she does counterattack you, you can have your teammate close some of it, and then you would do literally the same effort that you did today to close all these riders, but you just have to close to one rider. And that would be an honorable use, or maybe a more strategic use of that type of effort, where it's like, okay, the yellow jersey is using the same amount of energy as I'm using, and so me chasing her down makes sense. Whereas today, the yellow jersey is sitting on the back smoking cigarettes, and you're on the front pulling. And if you're that good, where you're like, man, I'm that good, I can chase this breakaway down, whatever, just take that extra 20 seconds out of everybody tomorrow on the Mt Ventoux. That's my argument. So I kind of talked about this earlier in the podcast, where I was like, the weakness, or I'd say one weakness that Vollering tends to have, is she typically likes to just take it in her own hands and do it herself. And she's strong enough where she can do it, but if this Russo is as strong as she looks, you don't really have that much to play with. And if Kasia is not doing the same thing, then you have to, in the back of your mind, think, okay, we know she's really strong and she's saving a little bit of energy. Now, let's go and talk about Canyon SRAM. They used their rider that's fourth place on the GC to chase Longo Borghini, you know, while the movie stars are sitting on, and at this point Demi's sitting on. So this was before even Demi pulled. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just tag the break with the woman that's in fourth place overall, right? Like fourth place overall up front with Longo Borghini. Now you got to checkmate. You got to check you're in check. Maybe not checkmate, but you're in a check situation, right? Where you like, I'm ahead of you on GC. Now movie star are going to move, right? Now Roycer maybe is going to chase that down herself. That's the kind of thing that you want to create for the situation. You want that to happen. You want that panic. You want this fourth place ahead that is dangerous, because this girl is dangerous. Now, why they used her to chase this breakaway down, beyond me, right? Other than the fact that, just like I said, things are chaotic. It's been hard all day long. We are not sure exactly what to do. Our radios are maybe not working, whatever it is. And I think the girl in fourth, Niedermeyer, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'm hesitant to say a lot of these names because I just mess them up and I feel like a complete chump over here. And quite honestly, I'll be totally transparent. Like, I have never said her name before, ever. I will now. I'm learning all these names, but I don't know it. But anyway, I think Niedermeyer is her name, how you pronounce it. But like, she is getting overtaken possibly by Longo Borghini. So it's almost kind of like, in her mind too, she's like, well, I'm going to chase because I don't want this girl to go over me on GC. But again, why does it matter? And if you really are like trying to play that game, cover her when she attacks to begin with. So I felt like that wasn't super good tactics. Now let's go to what was good tactics, and that was UAE, who's been kind of big discussion in the media, blah, blah, blah. And then there was some Longo Borghini in the interview that said, oh, all things are good with our team. I don't know why the media blows all this stuff out of proportion. And the Blasi, blah, blah, blah. And I thought they raced a great race. You could see all three of them. Wodorczyk, Longo Borghini, and Blasi were just lighting it up. I thought they played a perfect race. I think maybe that, to begin with, it was their strategy anyway, to have three riders that are up there on GC that can continue to attack here and there. And today, yeah, it almost kind of worked, or it did work in a situation where they got some time, and then they also were able to, have a challenge for the stage win. And they would have probably got close to the stage win. But yeah, Lacourt problem, right? So anyway, really good riding from UAE. Let's go into the Blasi drama because I think this is so fascinating. And again, everybody's commenting. They're saying, what the heck? What's going on here? Why is Blasi not being a GC rider? Not this, not that, whatever it is. And honestly, like, again, like we see on the road, we see Blasi not necessarily up to that game, not the same level as the top riders here at the Tour de France. And I'm assuming that was kind of the situation, like with the team, is we know your numbers, we know what Demi does, we know all the stuff, like you're not quite at that level, and let's race as a team. And yeah, like you have the least amount of experience as the other two girls, so you're going to race in help with them, and that takes the pressure off you. Now she's up there in GC, everyone's adjusting it, so I think it was a little bit, egged on by the media, but then at the same time, I think they're just doing their job, reporting what they hear, and it sounds a little bit odd. But then when you like really dissect it and you look at it, it kind of makes sense, right? I think Longo Borghini and some of these other riders, they probably have contracts already with the team for next year. And so, with more experience, similar form level, probably makes sense to, they're not really trying to bring up Blasi as this young rider where they're like, hey, she's signed a 10-year contract with us, like Del Toro, and we're trying to bring you up. No, we're like, hey, these other women, they have similar form to you, more experience. We're going to work for them And part of that might be, yeah, you being up here, you throwing attacks yourself. And at the end of the day, she did throw attacks today, and it did spring Longo Borghini to her advance on GC and shot at a stage win. So it does work, you know. I wouldn't say that the way that they presented it publicly worked out the best for them, but that's kind of cycling, right? At the end of the day, I don't necessarily think anyone really nails the public presentation of anything in this sport. I think it's always either too little, too late, or too confusing, too soon. So, anyway, overall, good stage. I really enjoyed watching it. Like I said, I would say also honorable mention. I thought EF was super aggressive. They rode really well, and they got Kerbal in the. I think she's in the GC, and she got in the break, so she gained time as well. She ended up, I believe, second on the stage. So really awesome performance from her and the team. They were really animating most of it all the time. That big question again is like, why did Kristen Faulkner get on the front and chase this breakaway or help Demi Vollering bring this breakaway back? I do believe their GC rider was ahead in that break. And so a little bit strange on that, but again, I think that chalk that up again to just a lot going on in the road. Maybe Kristen Faulkner didn't know that maybe she wasn't in the group when that group went. Maybe she was a little bit confused on the radio or something like that. Maybe they said something and she didn't necessarily hear it. So I don't know. It's a lot harder than it looks, like bike racing and making decisions on the road and knowing exactly who's up there and knowing exactly what to do. And you know, maybe the team did tell her to chase, to put pressure on the other riders to pull in the breakaway and to give Kerbal the opportunity to sit on. You know, that could have been a tactic that they did. I've seen that one before, and it does work, right? Because it says, "Hey, our team's bringing this back. I'm not going to work. We want it back." And everyone says, "Crap. Well, we're going to work because we want this to stay away." And then, boom, you sit on, get a little bit more rest. Boom, get a good sprint result like she did. So maybe it was that. I don't know. Anyway, would love more interviews after the races. I think the cool thing that NBC or Peacock or whatever they are did a great job in the men's Tour de France is like, yeah, having the crew out on the road, getting lots of interviews after the stage with riders that are other than the winners. So yeah, let's get into tomorrow. Mount Ventoux, going to be an epic battle up this climb. Now, this is like one. Now, I wouldn't get too excited too fast because from my experience, when the climb or the stage is so hard that a lot of times people will end up being conservative because it's so hard that if you put all your blood on the road early on in the race and it doesn't work out, you don't just lose a couple seconds, you lose lots of time. And so when we look at kind of the cast and characters, we might have a Provode, right, that's going to send it from the bottom. And she like, I don't care. I've lost whatever, 5 minutes or something like that. I'm going to send it from the bottom. And honestly, I hope she does. I hope she can. I don't necessarily feel like she has the legs to do that. If you didn't hear my podcast yesterday, days before, I kind of feel like she purposely entered this race, not 100%, but I could be wrong. But I would love for her, someone like that, to send the Hail Mary from the bottom, go all the way to the top, try to send it, right? But GC, folks, let's be real. I don't really think anyone there is going to send it from the bottom. Maybe everyone's favorite, the people's champion, Kasha. She going to send it. It's possible. I hope. That would be amazing. Maybe she sends it from the bottom, all in or all out, maybe. But probably what's going to happen is FDJ will set a pretty hard pace at the bottom. And we know Demi Vollering likes to kind of do a lot of the work herself. And so I would guess Demi Vollering probably gets on the front early on, starts riding a hard tempo. Reusser sits on her wheel. I wouldn't be surprised if Reusser goes around her, starts riding her pace, and says, my pace is real strong. Good luck, everyone. I'm just going to ride my pace all the way to the top, and you can try to jump me at the top. Now, I think both of those are bad strategies, and I hope they don't happen tomorrow. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do happen. And viewers, I wouldn't get your hopes up again, like I said, for just a crazy carnage, epic climb, one by one. I bet you there's some conservative riding at the bottom with, of course, some Hail Marys, I hope, that send it. But like I said earlier in this podcast, that the level is so different between the first three riders that nobody can go anywhere. Like, even if Yellow Jersey gets on the front and start riding 80%, I don't think anyone can take time on her besides the two other riders. So I think we see those three riders kind of emerge, and then the cautionary piece that I would add to this is that it is windy once you get out of the tree line. Very windy. Can be very windy. It's supposed to be hot at the bottom, so that will be a factor. But then once you emerge over tree line, get out of tree line, it is exposed and it is windy. So if you are Kasia or you are Demi, if you don't have the yellow jersey dropped at that point, you're probably not going to drop her, right? And if you even don't drop her, but you have her with you at that point, I think you're maybe going to be able to get time bonus seconds on her, maybe jump her for a little bit of a time gap in the end. But you really risk losing the Tour de France with that strategy, because it's going to be tough to get enough time bonus seconds on her in the sprint in a time gap. And the following day, or the last day, the Nice stage, I don't think you're going to drop her on that stage. So really tomorrow going to be really decisive, or could be decisive. And so strategically, if you are Kasia or you are Demi, you got to be aggressive enough below the tree line to create some separation, in my opinion, on Roussard. And if you can't get that separation before that, you're probably going to deal with her all the way to the finish line. And then, yeah, you're doing your best to hopefully get some time bonus seconds and maybe a little bit of a split, but that's going to be tough as well. So anyway, we're going to see the stage tomorrow. We'll see how it all plays out. Those are my disclaimers, or those are the things I would look out for tomorrow when you're watching strategy wise. It's a hard stage. It's a hard climb. I've done it. It's really cool though. I would say it's a pretty awesome climb, really steep from the bottom, pretty straight. And yeah, excited to see how it goes down. So anyway, thanks for listening. I will see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully it was a banger. All right, later.